Every city has a story written above ground, but Los Angeles writes its deepest chapters beneath it. Under the glow of downtown, beneath layers of concrete poured over a century, are remnants of older worlds, corridors, foundations, tunnels, and voids that were never mapped. Progress built upward toward the sky, while secrets sank downward, buried in silence. Bunker Hill was once the city's highest point of pride, but beneath its surface lies something that never belonged to its history books, something that workers stumbled upon only once, and that the city tried to erase forever afterward. A structure without a known architect, a floor plan without a purpose, and rooms that seemed designed for people who were never meant to leave. Locals call it only by a name that feels more myth than memory. The Subterranean Hotel. At the turn of the 20th century, Bunker Hill was a symbol of wealth. Victorian mansions perched over the growing city, connected by cable cars that climbed the steep incline. Its residents were business owners, railroad tycoons, judges. But by the 1930s, decline began. Families moved west, mansions became boarding houses, and Los Angeles shifted from hilltop glamour to horizontal expansion. Urban planners saw Bunker Hill as outdated, an obstacle to progress. By 1950, excavation projects were underway. Streets were widened, tunnels reinforced, and old structures demolished. Workers described the hill as unpredictable. Multiple layers of brick, stone, collapsed basements, forgotten staircases that led nowhere. Still, nothing prepared them for what they would uncover next. An engineered void not tied to any known building above it. The excavation teams used early steam shovels and heavy drills, cutting deeper than any previous project in the area. The expectation was simple. Unstable soil, remnants of old homes, maybe a forgotten drainage line. But their tools struck a perfectly flat concrete slab, thicker than anything used in early 1900s residential construction. A second layer of steel ribs lay beneath it, precise, uniform, and decades ahead of the local engineering practices of the time. When crews broke through, dust rose like smoke from a space untouched by air for years. What they found was not a basement, not a utility chamber, but a man-made structure intentionally hidden below street level. Engineers noted the oddity. The support beams matched no known building above. This underground architecture existed independently, designed for a purpose no one could identify. Once inside, workers walked through a corridor nearly 30 meters long, perfectly straight, reinforced, and faintly angled downward. It had the unsettling geometry of a hotel hallway, door frames spaced evenly, numbers etched above them, though the metal plates were corroded beyond recognition. Inside each room, beds were bolted to the floor, steel frames anchored into concrete. The symmetry was disturbing, almost clinical, as if the purpose was to keep whatever happened inside completely controlled. There were no pipes, no ventilation, no signs of electrical wiring, nothing that made sense in a habitable structure. The walls were thick, two-layered, intentionally soundproof, and in the farthest room, workers reported a strange discoloration spreading across the wall, as if moisture or something else had seeped from the inside out. The first written testimony came from a maintenance technician assigned to survey the newly discovered chamber. He wrote, "The air is unnaturally warm, not stale, not stagnant, warm, like someone walked out seconds before we entered. Another note detailed a metallic smell, sharp and cold, unlike anything typical of long-sealed rooms. One worker mentioned hearing what he described as a door slamming at the end of the corridor. But upon inspection, the doors were fused open by rust, impossible to move. Another report mentioned distant tapping sounds that continued even after all machinery had been shut off. The team brushed it off as settling concrete, but the tapping followed a rhythmic pattern, almost intentional. The city's engineering office launched a full records review. They requested blueprints dating back to 1890, municipal permits, property maps, even military construction logs. Nothing matched the underground structure. Los Angeles kept meticulous records, especially during its early growth. Water lines, rail systems, basements, everything. But this chamber appeared nowhere. It wasn't tied to any mansion above it. No school, no hospital, no industrial site ever occupied the area. The technology used inside didn't align with the era's known builders or with any city-funded project. For the first time on record, the engineering department marked a discovery simply as origin unknown, a phrase never used again in the city's archives. As days passed, the atmosphere inside the structure changed. Workers complained of being watched, though no one stood behind them. One of them, Danielle Ruiz, reported seeing a man wearing early-century clothing, suspenders, a white shirt, dark slacks, standing at the far end of the corridor. When Ruiz approached, the figure turned a corner, but the corridor had no corner. It was a dead end. Two others would describe the same man days later using identical details. Another worker refused to return after hearing his own name whispered from inside a sealed room. He claimed the voice was calm, almost polite, but unmistakably human. The Los Angeles Herald ran a short, easily overlooked article in June of 1952. It mentioned unusual subterranean structures, worker fatigue, and an abrupt halt to demolition. But early print versions, preserved only in private collections, included a controversial final line. Crew reports disembodied voices inside chamber. The newspaper later removed the sentence, citing editorial correction, though no correction was ever officially logged. Local rumors claim city officials pressured the paper to soften the story, concerned it might attract unwanted attention or sabotage the redevelopment plans. Yet the article remains one of the few public hints of what truly happened. Before his death in 1961, city engineer Harold Whitmore recorded an interview now archived in a private collection. In it, he described the underground rooms with unsettling clarity. Number plates, welded frames, symmetrical beds. He emphasized the straps on the walls, thick leather worn down as if used repeatedly. Whitmore refused to discuss one particular chamber, the one on the lower level. He only said, "It felt like it remembered screams." He later added that the walls in that room vibrated slightly, as if something inside them was alive or listening. The recording ends abruptly with Whitmore saying, "I wish we never opened it." By late 1952, the city quietly ordered the structure sealed. Official documents cite structural instability. Off the record, the decision came after multiple incidents, machinery powers failing without a technical explanation, tools disappearing from locked storage, footsteps echoing through sealed corridors. Some workers heard voices, gentle, conversational, coming from behind the thickest walls. Others swore they felt warm air rushing past them in the dark, as if someone walked by. By the time the final concrete slab covered the entrance, not one member of the original crew remained willing to go back inside. Even the engineers avoided the site at night.
What happened? The power is out! Look! The wrench! It just fell!
During the massive reconstruction of Bunker Hill in the 1960s, the underground structure was conveniently omitted from redevelopment maps. Entire sections of its footprint were covered with new foundations, parking structures, and elevator shafts. City planners never mentioned it publicly again. When modern engineers reviewed old blueprints, they found blank blocks of land, perfect rectangles with no notes, no details, as if intentionally censored. Even today, subsurface scans occasionally detect hollow cavities beneath certain buildings. When asked, officials simply say the spaces are unrelated geological anomalies. But anomalies don't come with reinforced walls.
Phase 3 requires deeper foundation work than anticipated. Yes, but the void stabilization seems to be holding according to the scans.
In the early 1980s, a group of urban explorers entered a storm drain near Bunker Hill and found a narrow breach in the concrete. The air inside was warm, 30 years after the structure had been sealed. They reported hearing soft movement deeper inside, like shifting fabric or slow footsteps. One explorer claimed he saw a shadow moving across a wall, even though his flashlight beam was steady. Another said he felt as if someone stood directly behind him, breathing softly. Their footage was fuzzy, unreliable, but their voices in the recording trembled with genuine fear. After that night, they refused to return. One of them said simply, "That place isn't abandoned, it's occupied." Today, residents living in the modern towers around Bunker Hill sometimes report strange vibrations late at night, felt only on the lowest floors. Security guards tell stories of alarms triggered in basements with no visible occupants. Construction workers renovating nearby areas describe detecting symmetrical voids beneath reinforced platforms, too precise to be natural. Some older locals still speak of the hotel beneath the hill, claiming their grandparents warned them never to explore certain storm drains. The location of the chamber has been lost under decades of development, but the sounds from below haven't completely disappeared. Cities grow upward, their stories told by skylines and lights, but their truths lie deeper, in foundations poured over forgotten rooms and unfinished histories. Some structures are buried because time erases them, others because someone wanted them sealed forever. The subterranean hotel remains where it was first found, intact, silent, impossibly warm, and unclaimed by any official record. An engineered mystery beneath one of the world's most engineered cities. And like many secrets in Los Angeles, it waits patiently beneath the surface, untouched by the world above. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and follow our channel for more stories like this.